Hello everyone, Andy here, and here's what you can look forward to in today's episode. In today's episode, I was joined by Ballers Meg as we preview Week 3 of the 2025 NFL season. I give my take as my Dolphins face a daunting trip to Buffalo.
Boy, am I not looking forward to this game.
Meg gives her take as her Atlanta Falcons take on the Carolina Panthers.
I don't think he's quite ready for what the Falcons defence can put up.
And me and Meg go through each game and predict our winners as Meg attempts to beat me in Andy versus the guest. Hope you all enjoy.
Hello and welcome back to the Across the Pod NFL podcast. I am, as ever, your host today, Andy Davis, and we are here to preview Week 3 of the 2025 NFL season. Now, with me, I've got a returning guest back for today on the show. As you can see, is Meg, otherwise known as Ballers Meg. Meg, first of all, great to have you back on. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, and thanks for having me. It's really fun the last time, so looking forward to this one.
Yeah, it should be a cracker. We got some great games to look forward to. So I'm not looking forward to probably a lot.
Yeah,
There's some interesting division games. There's some all-round should be a great week of NFL action. And we start off in Thursday Night Football where the Dolphins travel to the Bills. Actually, before we do that, let's head on to the results of Andy versus the guest. So in last week's episode, in our Week 2 preview, we had TJ, or American TJ, on the show to preview Week 2. Now, in the end, he got 12 correct predictions, whereas I got 10. We were pretty similar on a lot of our predictions. Only 4 games where we had different winners. So, for example, I went for the Bills beating the Jets, but he went for wins for the Patriots, Falcons, and also Buccaneers, whereas I went for wins for the Texans, Vikings, and Dolphins, which means in the end that he had won. Where last week was a tie between me, Freddie, and Johnny, whereas Week 2, TJ has beaten me. So at the moment, going into Week 3, it is currently 1-0 to the guest in Andy versus the guest. And Meg, it's your task now to try and make it 2-0 to the guest.
Oh dear. I'm known for my wild picks, so this could be fun.
Well, this might start off with one of the easier to predict, but you never know in a division game as the Bills host the Dolphins. Boy, am I not looking forward to this game. On a shorter week, I'm hoping that in a division game we could cause at least some problems for the Bills, and we haven't done a lot recently. I believe Matt Milano is out for the game, so that gives me hope that we could cause some problems. But if I'm honest, I've gone for the Dolphins to win the first 2 weeks. I'm not going for that this time around. I think in Buffalo as well, I said it before on the season preview, I don't think the Bills lose any game at home, besides maybe the Eagles this season. Last season, a high mark, and they're one of the best teams in the NFL anyway. I think it's going to be such a hard place to go. I'm glad it's in Week 3 and not Week 13 or Week 15. I think that would be in the snow an even harder proposition on a shorter week. But nevertheless, I'm going for the Bills to win. Meg, Bills or Dolphins for you?
It's the Bills for me, unfortunately. I've not got much faith in Miami at the minute, and I'm sure you're probably as frustrated watching them. But yeah, I can't see past the Bills, and I agree with you. I think the Bills at home are Stonewall.
Yeah, and whilst they didn't look as good as Week 1 and Week 2, I didn't think they needed to. I didn't think they really looked like they were out of second gear. I thought the Jets were that poor. The Bills looked like they were just going through the motions. I remember a play from Josh Allen where it just looked like he wasn't really trying and he was still making these great plays. And, I think the intensity wasn't quite there from Week 1, I think for obvious reasons, because the Jets were nowhere near on the level of the Ravens in Week 1. So, yeah, the Bills, I think they'll be up for this. And, yeah, they're going to win this. I think I'm not going to say fairly convincingly, because I do think there'll be a point maybe in the first quarter where we may take the lead or go level. But I think over a course of 4 quarters, I don't believe we've got enough to really challenge this Bills team. And even when we were good a couple of years ago making playoffs, and all, we still couldn't beat the Bills. So when we're not playing well, I don't think how we beat them. Now we've gone from my team to your team in the Sunday slate, 6 p.m. as the Falcons, which is your team, of course, travel to the Panthers. Of course, Falcons did get a win on on Sunday Night Football against the Vikings, whereas Panthers fell to 0-2 after another disappointing performance from them. Meg, I'll go to you first. Is your team winning this game?
Yeah, I think quite comfortably. I was a big Bryce Young fan at the start of this season. I must say, I thought he was going to be better. Maybe he will be like we saw last season. But for this week, I don't think he's quite ready for what the Falcons defense can put up. I mean, we showed against the Vikings, we were almost impossible to get through. And if the Vikings can't do it with their team and their offense, then I just can't see the Panthers having enough in the tank to get past us. We looked pretty convincing on both sides of the ball. I think some of our lesser known players, like not lesser known, but kind of less hyped players, Tyler Algier, for example, had a brilliant game. Penix is using his targets really wisely. He's not going to the same person too often. We're not seeing that kind of Bijan getting everything constantly. So, yeah, Falcons for me for this one.
Yeah, I agree. I was like you. I was high on the Panthers this year. I thought they could cause some problems whilst not winning the division. I thought they could, challenge that second spot in the NFC South. But yeah, it's been a poor showing. I think kind of the points they put up in week 2, I think were a bit, generous, because I think it was almost towards garbage time when he started to play well, and I don't believe that's going to change anytime soon against this Falcons team. What I saw against the Vikings team that I'm really high on, I love Brian Flores. I'm big on JJ McCarthy, but I thought they were really impressive. And Bijan Robinson, for me, stole the show with some great plays he made in that game. And I think overall, when you got Cal Pitts, who looks, albeit 2 weeks in, looks like he could be finally breaking out. You got also Josh London there, Darnell Mooney making a play or two. It's the offense is doing well, and I think the defense has been even better. So yeah, I don't see any world. Maybe if they're at home, maybe, and the Falcons are, sadly for you, Meg, they are the Falcons, so they have these games where they could just. They're probably the hardest team to bet on, I think, in the NFL. Not that I bet that often, but I wouldn't even dare touch betting on our Falcons. Moving on, though, to the next game, which is in Cleveland, Ohio, as the Browns host the Packers. This, for me, is the easiest one to call of the entire week. I don't see any way the Packers lose to the Browns, I think. Yeah, from what I saw in, albeit the highlights against the Ravens, and what I saw week 1, it's not pretty viewing for the Browns. I think the Packers are one of the best teams in the league right now. I mentioned it in our week 2 review, but I think this defense can go man to man. They can go zone, and they can just completely dominate you. And Keyshawn Nixon was really impressive in that week 2 game. They got Micah Parsons on a snap count, and he's still got 1.5 sacks. He's still been one of the best players on defense. I think this defense allows the likes of others to step up when teams are scheming against Micah Parsons. It's allowing other players to step in, and I think this Packers team is legit. And I think, even if they're against one of the best teams in the NFL, I'd still back them to win or put on a good show for themselves. So, yeah, I think, I said the Browns might cause problems to the Ravens because of the division game, but this is not a division game. I think the Packers win this by double digits. Meg, do you agree?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the Packers are one of the strongest teams that not that I didn't have them on my radar, but I definitely wasn't expecting what we're seeing from them so far. And if that holds up, I mean, against the Browns, anybody can hold up, but if that holds up for the season, then the Packers are in with a real shot in that NFC North division for sure.
Well, interesting fact, they're actually, at the moment, the 2 top teams when it comes to run defense. The Browns actually leading the way when it comes to their defense so far. At time of recording, they've allowed 91 yards rushing in the 2 games. The Packers 97. And even when it comes, the Browns also 3rd when it comes to the pass defense. Packers are a little bit lower down, but they're both in the top 3 when it comes to yards per game total allowed as well. So this Browns team has a defense that could do something, but I think this offense is really poor right now, and I don't think that's enough. Moving on to our next game, which is moving on to the AFC South as the Jags host the Texans. Meg, I'll go to you first. Who wins this for you?
I've got the Texans winning this one. I watched them last weekend, and I was so impressed with we're not seeing the CJ Stroud that everybody thought we were going to get. Let's be honest, we haven't seen that really since he signed up. But I just can't see past the Texans right now, and I think the Jags have got some weapons. They've got Travis Etienne. They've got obviously Travis Hunter. But it's not enough for me. It's just not enough. I think it is going to be one of the closer games this weekend. I think they will go kind of tit for tat in the trenches, but I think the Texans edge that win slightly. I think they've been unlucky to get those 2 losses the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I found this probably the second hardest game to call. I've been torn up and down with who I want to pick. I mean, the Jags, if they had quite a lot of drop passes against the Bengals, and I think that any of the day they could have beaten the Bengals that day. But I think the Texans, have had moments. I don't know who to pick. If I'm honest, I'm stuck now. I think purely because I can't see the Texans going 0-3, so I'm going to go for the Texans to win. I'm going to go for them to sort out. I don't think there's a world where they go 0-3. I think the Jags 1-1 right now. The Jags, they're 1-1. They're a team that has been inconsistent. I don't know whether it's been the most convincing display yet from Trevor Lawrence and Liam Cohen's relationship and how the games have gone. So I'm going to go for the Texans but I think it's very close. Moving on to another game, which would have been an amazing viewing a week ago. I was literally saying this. I was watching. I mentioned my friend Howell, who I watched his game with in his cabin on Sunday, and they were advertising Vikings Bengals. We were saying at the time, that's amazing. You got Burrow against McCarthy. Week later, they're not there. Burrow's out for 3 months. McCarthy's out as well. Now we've gone from Burrow against McCarthy to Carson Wentz against Jake Browning. I think for this one, I would have probably gone for the Vikings before, but I'm going to go for the Bengals now purely because there's only one reason for this. I think they both got the best 2 receivers in the game. They both got stars on defense, stars at running back. I'm going to go for 2 factors. I think firstly, I'm going to go for the Bengals to win because I trust Browning to know the offensive playbook more than Wentz. And also, I think the defense is better in Minnesota than it is in Cincinnati overall. And the O-line is way better in I know saying that the O-line is not better in Cincinnati than the Vikings. But I'm going to go for the Bengals to win. I just think that, I just trust Browning more as a backup than Wentz. Even though Wentz has done more in his career, I think Browning's been at the team longer. He knows the offense better, and he's proved he can win a game, with his team. So give me the Bengals to win over the Vikings. Meg, Vikings or Bengals?
So this is our first one that I think we disagree on. Again, I was hyped for this game before. Obviously, we're without our starting quarterbacks on both sides there. I'm taking the Vikings on this one. Now, I've seen the kind of panic acquisition of Desmond Ridder over at the Vikings yesterday, which made me laugh because I thought, if it's not Kirk O'Chains across there, then Desmond Ridder is by no means anywhere near that level. But it's an interesting one. It is an interesting one because, like you said, the Bengals have got some real weapons there, and the Vikings didn't show up against us. Certainly, I didn't feel like the Falcons played the best of the Vikings team. But I just think that the Vikings will edge it. I think they've got something to prove, especially after coming back, out of that Atlanta game with the loss. Bengals are 2-0, maybe not as much to prove as the Vikings do. So give me the Vikings on this one.
Interesting. It's I think if McCarthy was playing, I would be all in on the Vikings winning. I just don't know if I trust Carson Wentz. Next up is the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers traveling to the New England Patriots in Foxborough. Meg, Steelers or Pats?
I'm taking the Pats on this one. There is not a world where I will ever back Aaron Rodgers, as we know, and he is at the very top of my biting list. So I'm taking the Pats. I think that on paper, the Pats have fixed out that O-line and they've kind of, got a little bit more reassurance for Drake May, a little bit more protection for him this season than they did last season. We're yet to kind of see the full potential. Now, both of these teams are 1-1. So both of them, have got it all to play for. But I just think the Pats are coming in high off of last weekend. I think, yeah, give me the Pats on this one.
Okay, so 2 in a row we've gone differently. I'm going for the Steelers to win. I think despite the Patriots beating us, I don't think they were that impressive. I think they were just I don't think they were that impressive. I think it was a mixture of us being bad kind of thing. So I don't know whether I can trust the Patriots after that game, and I don't think that the defense wise, allowing the amount of points they allowed in both their games is not exactly one to be happy to be positive about if you're a Patriots fan. And I just think that the Steelers, if you take away that crazy play in the last game where on special teams, it would have been a lot closer than the scoreline suggests between them and the Seahawks. And I think, Jalen Ramsey, has been, for me, really impressive these first 2 games. You think about the kind of game-sealing play he had against the Jets in week 1, and made some great sort of plays in week 2 against the Seahawks, where he sort of stopped Cooper Kupp, for example, made some first down saving tackles. And I think just overall, I think Rodgers, he had 4 touchdowns against a weak secondary, a weak defense against the Jets, and I think that against a weak secondary, in New England, I think that, I can see the Steelers getting the win here. Next up is one of the games of the week as the Eagles host the Los Angeles Rams. I'm very sure this will be the 6 p.m. game on Sky. I don't know who's been revealed as that yet, but I can see this being on TV. This is the hell of a game. Repeat of the divisional round in last season where, of course, Saquon Barkley ran riot. And I think, once again, the Eagles win. Whether it is down to Barkley or someone else, but I think this Eagles team, I think the Rams team, I like the Rams team, I do. But I think in Philly as well, against the Eagles, who have been fairly impressive, week 1 and week 2. So I think the Eagles win. I think, I don't think we've seen the best of the receivers, but I think Barkley's been, back to his best. Then even having said that, Devontae Smith, made a bad mistake early in the game, but he made up for it with a winning play against the Chiefs. And I think this Rams team, if it was in LA, I'd be a bit more confident in maybe the Rams winning. But in Philadelphia, in that Lincoln Financial Field atmosphere, I think the Eagles win this. Meg, do you agree or do you disagree?
Yeah, no, I agree. Obviously, both of these teams are 2-0. And so both have proven themselves so far that they're here to play. But I can't see past that, especially the defense at the Eagles. I think the Rams are going to really struggle to get any sort of run game going against that. So yeah, give me the Eagles for that game for sure.
So next up is in Tampa Bay in Florida as the Bucs host the Jets. Meg, who wins this?
So obviously we're seeing injuries. Justin Fields is out in this one as well. And so much as I absolutely hate to say it, I'm going for the Buccaneers. And it breaks my heart because I just want someone to break them. Like I would like it if they would just be like stopped in their tracks. But Bucky Irving is unbelievable. We're seeing things happening across Emeka Egbuka as well. Like there's so many weapons that Tampa Bay are bringing out, and you can't deny it, you can't ignore it. And I just don't see a world where the Jets are strong enough to beat them. Now, I do think the Jets 0-2 record's unfair. I think that they have certainly not been an 0-2 team, but I just can't see Tampa Bay being their win. I just can't. I hope it is. I really hope it is, and for my division's sake. But yeah, give me the Bucs.
Yeah, I've gone Bucs as well. I think if Fields was there, it'd be a bit more close, but I just think that Tyrell Taylor as the Jets backup, I just don't believe that the Jets team can do this. I was really impressed with Baker Mayfield in that final drive. I mean, the whole game. I mean, he was very quick to get the ball out. He was successful in his second and third reads, and I was really impressed with how he conducted himself and how he led that team in that final drive. And I think Baker Mayfield is one of the more likable quarterbacks to me. I'm a big fan of Baker Mayfield, and I just think that at home as well. You mentioned Bucky Irving there. Rashad White had the game-winning play. Mike Evans still showing he's got something. The Ohio State receiver, and I'm going to butcher his name, so I'm not even going to try and pronounce his name. And the defense as well. So I think this Buccaneers team is good. I don't know whether it's good to win a Super Bowl, but I think certainly to win this division and, well, at least win this game. I think it's the Buccaneers all day long. Next up is a game which I thought would be one of the worst games of the season going into it prior to this year, as the Colts go to the Titans. I think the Colts win. I've been really impressed with the Colts. I think Daniel Jones, maybe, I don't know if he's quite worth the hype just yet, but he's had a really good first 2 weeks. And I've been really impressed with the running game. Jonathan Taylor, of course, being the man there. The receivers have just been brilliant as well. He seems to have found different guys each time. And then the defense has been, for me, impressive as well. So, yeah, I'm going for the Colts to win. I think Cam Ward has shown some signs of why he's the first overall pick. I just think he's in a really bad team. I think it's going to be hard for him to really show himself in his rookie year. So, yeah, give me the Colts over the Titans. Meg, how are you feeling about this game?
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. I think that the Colts are winning this one. And again, normally that would be a game that I would be like, I really have no interest in watching that before this season. And then now I'm kind of like, oh, I kind of want to see what happens here. I think it's, Cam Ward's getting a bit of an unfair kind of rap at the minute, isn't he? Because everyone's saying, well, he's number one overall pick and, he's in a 0-2 team. But realistically, look at who's around him. What have they got? Calvin Ridley. Who else is he targeting at this point? It's not his fault. God love him. It's he's doing his best with a bad situation. I think it'll be closer than we think. I think that the Titans have put on a show the last couple of weeks that nobody expected from them. But I do think the Colts are all over it. Definitely.
So our final lot of these 6 p.m. games is in Washington as the Commanders host the Raiders. Meg, Raiders or Commanders?
Give me the Commanders on this one. I know that Jaden Daniels is obviously hurt, but even with Max Crosby, I just can't see a world where the Raiders are going to Washington and winning. I just can't see it. Scary Terry's one of my absolute favourite players. It's the only non-Falcons jersey that I own. It's a Scary Terry jersey. That was, yeah, I have to back my Commanders. They're my soft spot team. So I don't think Vegas has just got enough in them at the minute. I want to see a bit more power and a bit more, reading the ball better, reading the options better when they're up against it, because at the minute it's all a bit predictable. And I think it's where they're falling short, is they're so easy to read what's going to happen. And, they can't just depend on Max Crosby. They can't just depend on a defense to stop points going through. So, yeah, give me the Commanders for this one.
I'm the same as you. I was not impressed by Geno Smith at all in that Monday night game against the Chargers. Ashton Genty's been very underwhelming in his first 2 games. And I just think, this Commanders team, even though I think the Commanders team were pretty poor against the Packers, but I think so were the Lions, and they scored 50-odd points against the Bears. So
yeah,
I think, I don't think I can, I just don't think, whilst at the same time, I don't think you can really gauge how good they were from beating the Giants. I don't think you can gauge how bad they are because of how good this Packers defense is. So give me the Commanders to win this one. As we move on to the later slate, as the first one is in SoFi Stadium, as the Los Angeles Chargers host the Broncos. One of the games of the week. I think this could have massive implications when it comes to the AFC seeding. Could even be for division if results go a certain way this weekend. I found this one really tough to predict. I'm going to go for the Chargers to win. I think both teams had good, great receiver performances. Marvin Mims, Quentin Johnson, Lad McConkey, Cortland Sutton. Both had a good run game. You think about J.K. Dobbins. And whilst I don't think we've seen the best of Hampton or Najee Harris, but I think Herbert has been way better than Bo Nix, and that's what's given me the advantage for the Chargers. They're at home as well, despite it not being much of a home advantage for the Chargers in that stadium. I just think that Herbert, for me, in his first 2 weeks, has been really, really impressive. He's been, able to move around freely in the pocket, make some great running plays, and I think he's been very impressive. Where Bo Nix had a questionable first 2 weeks this season. So yeah, give me the Chargers to win this game. Meg, who wins it for you, Broncos or Chargers?
So I've got the Broncos on this one. Now, the reason being that you think about that Broncos defense, they are the one thing Denver prides themselves in is how strong they are on defense. Everybody going into the season was talking about that, one of the top defenses across the league. So coming in a little bit hurt from last weekend, a little bit, their pride's hurting, they're, licking their wounds a little bit. They've got more to prove than the Chargers. The Chargers are sitting 2-0. They've shown what they can do. Herbert has been phenomenal. I agree with you for sure. But there's something in my mind that says that Denver have got it all to play for this week, and I just think they're going to go really strong, and try and prove themselves to be that team that everyone was talking about as the sneaky favourite to come in and do some wonderful things. I think they're gonna sneak it this week.
Okay, so then our next game, our second lot of 9:05 p.m. kickoffs, is the Seahawks hosting the Saints. Meg, who wins it for you?
Seahawks all day, every day, and that's not just because of division rivalry. That is, the Saints are an absolute dumpster fire. They're a car crash right now. Although doing better than anyone expected, because they've managed to score some points in some games, but there's no way against the Seahawks. There is just no way. I think for me that's one of the easiest games to call. And watch me eat my words next week when we're sitting here and they've won. But for me, it was the easiest one. I was just like, yeah, there's just no way. There is nothing. Alvin Kamara cannot do it by himself, much as he would like to. There is no way. And so, yeah, give me the Seahawks. Give me Seattle.
Well, I've gone for Seahawks as well. I think that I think you're right. The Saints have been better than we thought. I mean, you think about Spencer Rattler. I was really impressed with his performance against the 49ers. 3 touchdowns, 0 picks. But I don't see them winning many games this year. I mean, looking at their schedule now, you've got the Bills after this week in week 3. They've got games against the Bucks in week 8, Rams in week 9, Falcons in week 12, Dolphins week 13. Although that could be a win. Bucks again in week 14. So I think really look at it. They've got games against the Giants, the Panthers, the Titans, so there's some winnable games there, but I don't think against the Seahawks team, who I've been impressed by these first 2 weeks. I'm not having any faith in a Saints to win this game. I think they could be potentially the last team to win a game in the whole league. You mentioned your soft spot team being the Commanders. My 2 soft spot teams play each other in this next game at 9:25 as the Bears host the Cowboys. This one, I found ways, and I thought it would have been start of the year. I'm going for the Cowboys to win. Start of the year, I've been a lot more higher on the Bears than the Cowboys. I've been impressed by the Cowboys. Week 1, albeit without Jalen Carter, they gave the Eagles a good run for their money. They've been great on offense. Dak Prescott's looked good mostly, especially week 1. Javonte Williams has been really impressive in this run game for them. Kenny Clark has been so far, a worthwhile sacrifice of losing Micah Parsons. And the Bears haven't been that impressive for me. I thought week 1 they absolutely collapsed. They really had no place to lose that game with how the first 3 quarters went. And then second week they were, can't work out whether they're really bad or outplayed, but I think the Cowboys for me in Soldier Field will get the win. Give me the Cowboys. Meg, how are you seeing this one?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. I'm really high on Javonte Williams actually at the minute. Whenever I'm doing my daily fantasy, I try and pick him up. I never in my wildest dreams thought I would be back in the Cowboys against anyone this season. But here we are. I think Dak Prescott's been more impressive than what we maybe thought he was going to be, because he's got that team round him, and it just goes back to having those weapons on both sides of the ball. He knows that he's still got a decent defense without Micah Parsons, and I think that was the one worry that we all had. How do the Cowboys get even worse? Well, they get rid of Micah Parsons, but then it's kind of not worked like that. So the Bears I've just got no faith in, and it's sad to me because I really want Caleb Williams to come out and actually, show what he can do, because I do think he is better than what we have seen of him. But the Cowboys are in my opinion, going to just edge that this week. And, the Bears were embarrassed last week. Let's be honest. The Lions showed them up. So yeah, give me Dallas for this one.
Well, next up is the game which I didn't think would be 2-0 teams at the start of the season, as the Cardinals travel to the 49ers in our last of the second slate in Santa Clara. Meg, for you, who wins it?
Oh, this was one of the tougher ones for me to call actually, but with the amount of injuries at the Niners and the amount of their, weapons that are missing, I'm going for Arizona on this one. I'm also much more impressed with Kyler Murray this season than what I expected to be, and I think it, again, close game. I've got it down to the wire on this one. But yeah, give me Arizona for that game.
Yeah, I've gone for the Cardinals as well. I think if Brock Purdy was healthy, I would have been a lot more confident in the 49ers. I think, but I think the fact they allowed that game against the Saints to be so close doesn't give me much confidence against this Cardinals team, who I thought was really impressive on defense in our last game against the Panthers. I thought they really, for most of the game anyway, gave the Panthers a real drubbing between the trenches. But yeah, I just think in this game they're without George Kittle. They got McCaffrey granted, but I just don't think there's enough there at the moment. And I think the Niners will fall to 2-1. The Cardinals will go 3-0. Now, Sunday Night Football is very interesting. Wouldn't it be an interesting start of the year? You think Chiefs Giants week 3? Why is it on Sunday Night Football? But the way this season started, the Giants put up 40 points against the Cowboys in week 2. The Chiefs have gone 0-2, and it's a really unprecedented situation, because you've got potential for the Chargers to go 3-0, and the Chiefs could any given Sunday go 0-3, and that would really, I think, be a lot to come back from in this division for them. So it's a really important weekend for the Chiefs, especially, obviously it depends how the first game goes, of course. If the Broncos win, it's 2-1 teams. If the Chargers win, you got 3-0 there. So it's really interesting. It's a really fascinating one. The Chiefs, I think personally haven't been as bad as maybe made out, but still not maybe themselves. I'm going to go for the Chiefs to win, because I just think that despite the 2 losses, they only lost by 6 points against the Chargers, lost by a handful of points against the Eagles. It's not as if they're losing these games by 10, 15 points. And you saw Mahomes, in multiple times, in this game, making plays by himself. And I think despite the Giants putting up, 39, 40 points, whatever it was, they still allowed more than that. They still lost the game. So I think, the Chiefs will get back to winning ways. Now they've got either the Ravens or Lions in the next 2 games. So, it's not getting easier for them. But I think this is one where they'll get their first win of the season, get that off their back, and they'll be, they'll hope it'll kickstart their season. Meg, how are you feeling? Same as me, or are you going for the Giants?
I am going for the Giants on this one.
Ooh.
I am mega impressed with what the Giants have been doing. Obviously, defensively, they need a lot of work. However, the Chiefs are without Xavier Worthy. They're without Rashee Rice. They are with an aging Travis Kelce who's planning his wedding. I just think, yes, they've not been as bad as what they made out to be, and by any stretch, but they are not. there's a magic touch missing from the Chiefs this season. And I can't put my finger on exactly what it is. You know, we're seeing Patrick Mahomes, like you said, having to make plays because he just doesn't have an option. He's looking around and he's like, there's nobody, nobody is here for me to throw this ball to. There's nobody that I can, trust that they're going to be making those catches. And so for me, if you look at what Malik Neighbours did on the weekend, for example, some of those catches and some of those, they weren't quite Hail Marys, but geez, they were impressive throws, impressive yards put up at the Giants. Give me the Giants this week. Controversial maybe, but there's something about it that's just niggling me that says Giants have got it.
Well, we're recording this currently on Wednesday, September 17th at 7:03 p.m. Things could change by the time this podcast is released, but there's a lot of talk, a lot of rumours going around the mill that they're going to trade for Tyreek Hill. So that would add something. I think he showed something in week 2. Week 1, it was really disappointing, but week 2 he showed me something that he can still play. I think the Chiefs will want him back. I think he regrets ever leaving the Chiefs. I think that's going to be a trade that's going to be, for him, finally time to, put a few things right and, maybe get a second ring at some point in the next couple of years. But there's increasing talk of that. Pro Football Talk talked about it. They have an interest in trading for him. And so when this game comes on Sunday, he could be playing for the Chiefs at this point. I don't know whether it'll happen that quickly. I think it's more likely to happen maybe next week. If it does happen, I don't think he'll be there. I don't think he'll be a Dolphin by the time we play in Madrid. I don't think he'll be a Dolphin by there. And I don't think Daniel will be the head coach by that point.
Yeah.
But you never know. With playing on Thursday night, there could be a chance for him to make the move to the Chiefs and still play on the weekend. Could he be the first player? If it happened, he could be the first player I've ever seen who's played for 2 teams on the same NFL game week.
That would be insane.
It'd be amazing for fantasy football reasons. Can you imagine if you had Tyreek Hill in your team and you had 2 games in the same? That would be amazing.
Yeah.
But then finally is the highlight. It's a cherry on the icing. It's the chef's kiss of the game week. One of the games of the season against last season's number 1 seed in the NFC against the 2023 number 1 seed in the AFC as the Baltimore Ravens host the Detroit Lions. This one's interesting. This one is such a lot of things. Obviously, different conferences, so not much impact on the seedings, but certainly, this league's all about margins, fine margins. One game can make a difference in terms of where you place, in terms of 2nd seed, 3rd seed, and so it's a big game. And some people think it could be a Super Bowl preview. Meg, I'll let you go first as the guest, and to give you more time to try and pick my winner, because I'm finding this one even harder than the last one I struggled with.
Oh, see, I'm quite surprised. So obviously, I use the Sleeper app for my fantasy football Pick'ems league, and usually it tells you the kind of win percentage for each side. Now, the app has the Lions at a 34% win probability to the 66% at the Ravens, which to me is massively out. I don't see a world where the Lions are 30%, 32% worse or less likely to win. I'm actually going for the Lions this week. I have faith that the Lions can do it. And one of my main reasons is that the Ravens have been so sloppy. Derrick Henry making some mistakes that we would not expect Derrick Henry to be making. If you look at him last season, we didn't see the kind of, and it's silly mistakes. It's dropping the ball. It's turning, it's just not being the accurate Derrick Henry that we're used to. It's, again, I keep kind of using that phrase magic touch, but there's something not quite there for him last week. Now, we can't deny the fact that the Ravens are putting the points up. Offensively, they are putting the points up, but they're also letting so many points by. And the Lions' defense is strong. Luckily, I had a heart in my mouth moment because Aiden Hutchinson obviously had that little niggle last week, and I thought, oh, not again. I can't stand to watch that happen to him again. But luckily he's fine. Defensively, I think the Lions have just got more in them than the Ravens seem to be able to stop. Yeah, give me the Lions on that one. And I'm hoping that they win because, again, the Ravens are not my favourite team. They're not a team that I'm particularly fond of, and I think the Lions can do it.
See, I'm still till now because on the one hand, I totally agree with you. I think the Lions are a better team pound for pound, but then on the other hand, it's in Baltimore on Sunday night. Monday night. A Baltimore game at night time is one of the hardest places to go. I think that and Philly is. I think their stadium's built for night games. I think it's just an amazing. We see it on TV on whatever night it is, and you watch a Baltimore game in Baltimore. It is quite something, and I think that does make a difference. I think that will help things. And Lamar Jackson still put up, in both games, a lot of touchdowns, and obviously I'm backing my boy Derrick Henry to get things right. And I think they had success for a lot of the game in running the ball in week 1 and week 2, not as much. So I'm going to go for the Lions just because I think on the one hand, whilst I think the Bears are pretty bad, I don't know whether that's enough to really, have faith in the Lions getting number 1 seed again. But it was 52 points. It's not just, you're not winning games by 30 to 15. It's 52 points. That says something about this Lions team, that they have figured it out. And we actually never call about this Packers defense, and maybe it was just an off day, week 1 anomaly for the Lions. So I'm going to go for the Lions to win. It was hard to predict, and I think this is the one where I'd be most confident in getting it wrong out of all the ones I've done. Or maybe Chargers Broncos, I don't know. But yeah, tough one to pick. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. I'm looking forward to this so much. And yeah, it should be a good end to what should be a good week of NFL football. And that is where we will end the episode for today. So in the end, we've gone for 4 different games with different winners. So in the end, we've all gone for wins for the Bills, Falcons, Packers, Texans, Eagles, Bucks, Colts, Commanders, Seahawks, Cowboys, Cardinals, and Lions. Whereas Meg went for win for the Giants. I went for win for the Chiefs. I went for win for the Chargers. Meg went for the Broncos. I went for win for the Steelers over the Pats. Meg went for the Pats. And Meg went for the Vikings to beat the Bengals, whereas I went for the Bengals. There we are. First of all, Meg, thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Been a lot of fun.
It's been good having you on, and I'm sure we get you on later on in the season. I was hoping that the Lions were playing the Falcons, because that would have been a great chance to get you and Fletcher on the same episode to preview that. Not this year. But it's been good having you on, and it's been good seeing your work on socials. It's been good seeing you, also appear in a video I appeared in on NFL UK's TikTok, where you both previewed the season. So that was good to see. And for those who are listening at home or watching that aren't aware of your work, let them know how they can find you on socials.
Yeah, just at Ballers_Meg everywhere, really. Ballersmeg.com. Is under construction at the minute, but it is still up there. It's still available. Just got a few tweaks that's going on, but on the socials is probably where you're most likely to be finding me most days, on Instagram and TikTok, and X as well.
Well, there we are. That is how you can find Megan. If you haven't already, go give her a follow on all of those platforms she just mentioned. Stay tuned, of course, for this time next week. We'll find out who won in Andy versus the guest between myself and Meg. And of course, stay around for our week for preview. And of course, that will be a week where we'll be previewing the Ireland game, and I'll be going to the Ireland game pretty much in a week's time, or 8 days' time, the time of recording. When this podcast is released, I'll be flying in exactly a week's time. So obviously looking forward to bringing you all content from the Irish shores of the Steelers Vikings, hoping to attend some practice sessions, hoping to, I won't get time to go to the post-match stuff because of flight reasons, but certainly all the game stuff, all the stuff before the game, and yeah, all that stuff attached, all the atmosphere around Dublin. Stay tuned on our socials for all of that good stuff. But in the meantime, this has been the Across the Pod NFL podcast, our Week 2 review. For Week 3 preview, apologies everyone, I have been your host, as ever, Andy David, with our guest today, Ballers Meg, and we'll see you guys next time.